Hey everyone, my guest today is Randy Rainbow. Randy is a four-time Emmy and Grammy nominated comedian, producer, actor, singer, writer, best known for his popular web series, The Randy Rainbow Show. His debut solo album, A Little Brains, A Little Talent, recorded on Broadway Records, earned him a 2023 Grammy nomination for Best Comedy Album. He has toured the US with his sold-out solo musical comedy concerts, and his videos are seen by hundreds and hundreds of millions of people all over the world. His memoir, Playing with Myself, is a New York Times bestseller. It has been said that Randy is the love child of Harvey Fierstein, Bette Midler, and Anderson Cooper. So today we are here to find out, is this true? Welcome, Randy Rainbow.
Thank you so much, Alana. It's nice to be with you. Yeah, it's funny. I should probably take that out of my intro there because then people will question all of the actual, credits there.
Yeah,
But yeah, of all of them, that one is true. I am the love child of all those people. Someone said that in a
100%.
review once. That was pulled from a review, but I've adopted it now, and it's now a part of my official bio.
I feel like that would be the most delicious DNA for anyone to have on
Yeah.
every level. Every one of them is just uniquely gifted, as are you. But I do want to ask you because I know you've discussed it in your book, and I know that your last name isn't Firestein or Midler or Cooper. It's Rainbow, and I think people are always really curious how, in fact, your family, because you've said that is, in fact, your real name, it's on your birth certificate, license, all the places. But
Yeah.
what is the origin story of that name
Oh
as you
God.
understand it?
You know what? I should really memorize this better, but I wrote it all out in the first chapter of my book, and I even read it in the Audible version. So if you want the full, every detail, I refer you to those. But essentially, it was, it wasn't, people assume that it was at least changed maybe at Ellis Island or something, but it was the actual translation of the word Regenbogen, the German word for rainbow. Um, and I wish I should just read you the little paragraph that explains it, but that's all I know. But my whole life, yeah, that has been the number one question. Obviously, people think that it's a hokey stage name. Um, I would not have chosen it. It was a very difficult childhood, Alana. But yeah, that's it was translated, but essentially it has always been rainbow. So thank God I turned out to be a gay entertainer and not a quarterback or whatever those are called.
Who wear different costumes
Yeah, I
than
know.
you do. Um, well, let's talk a little bit about that before we get into your recent absolute like meteoric rise, especially during COVID when we were all at home and terrified and desperately in need of entertainment and thoughtful entertainment. You fed us in the most incredible way. And it's like you plugged into the zeitgeist and understood exactly what the culture needed. And you have been rewarded for it. And we thank you. But let's go back. Like, where did you grow up? Who was in the house you grew up with? What were the influences? How did you fall in love with theater and musicals?
Grew up, well, I was born on Long Island, and then we moved to South Florida, which is a little shameful to admit to these days. Um, but yeah, when I was about 9 years old. So I spent the bulk of my childhood in Plantation, Florida.
Why did
Um,
you move? Why did your family move
my
at that
Again, I
time?
refer you to the book for all the drama because there's a whole story about my father and that's a whole chapter unto itself for another podcast. But he was having some business troubles that kind of led us to have to move. And there was some opportunity for him in Florida, so we got in a car and schlepped our way over. Um, and my mother, I mean, really, my influence for theater, I would say, my mother really introduced me, I would say, to musical theater. She was always putting me to sleep with the soundtracks to Oklahoma and The Music Man. She wanted to raise the gayest child on the block. And yeah, my father was an entertainer. He was a musician, a singer, and a drummer. So, there's a siren. Is that okay? Can you hear it? Can we fix it in post? Um, there was always some, it was a very showbiz positive family. It was always encouraged, to audition for the school play and things like that. So I just grew up in a family that loved theater, and even those who were bankers were kind of closeted comedians to some extent.
And were you doing that? Were you doing musicals growing up?
Yeah, I was in the well, when I was about, I think, 6, they put me in ballet lessons. So I started as a dancer. I am in no capacity a ballet dancer anymore, but that's really kind of where it started. And then I would, do all of the like community theater camps, and in Hollywood, Florida, I went to the Hollywood Playhouse with Josh Gad, who has, of course, gone on to great fame and success. And we would put on musicals every weekend while the other little kids were playing sports.
And was that, a lot of people talk about the theater or musical theater in particular being a place when you describe who you were as a kid and how your name ended up to be a really fitting moniker in certain ways. Was that a happy place for you, or was that fraught as well?
Um, the musical theater to be in, oh, that was my happy place. That was it. Yeah, that was my escape. um I would just count the seconds at school, waiting for the time that it would be the weekend and I could go on stage and do a show.
And what did your mom work, or was she home with you?
She did, yes. She's always now she's oh God, I always forget the technical term for her job, but she's been working many years for a radiologist, um as the manager or assistant, something. But I think she was, yeah, something to do in the medical field, clerical work and stuff like that. She'll probably kill me. Don't cut this part out. She's going to say, "How dare you?" But yes, my mother always was a career woman, and yeah. So, and my grandmother, my nanny, who I also, and this is a whole, anytime I get interviewed, I refer to my book a lot. Please don't think that I'm here to do a commercial. It's just, if you're interested in learning more, you might pick up a copy. But my grandmother, my nanny, was really sort of an important figure in my life. And she picked me up from school every day. And I spent a lot of my time with her, also wildly supportive of theater and kind of the stage mother, but of her and my mom, she was kind of the stage mom a little bit.
So did Nanny move to Florida with you?
Okay. She moved essentially with us, yes. And the legend has it that she kind of came to Florida, found this condo, that, long story short, she ended up giving to us because she knew it would be ideal for me. So she wound up in a different place. But yes, we moved at the same time from New York.
Okay. And you don't have siblings?
No, I have 2 half sisters. My father was 16 years older than my mother, so he had a couple marriages before my mother, and that gave me 2 half sisters.
Okay. So you have an incredible voice. You are a comedic genius. You love doing musical theater. Sounds like it was the only thing you really loved and that kept you going in Plantation, Florida. And I think that is still true for so many kids in Plantation, Florida today, I would assume,
Oh my
especially
goodness.
now more
Yeah.
than ever as we go backwards in time. Um, Tell me, sort of, you finish high school, do you go to college? Do you continue studying theater? What happens when you're kind of free of your little town?
Well, I went to college for about 9 minutes. I went to a community college, but I never well, first I have to tell you, Alana, because I'd
Yes.
be remiss not to tell you. When I was in high school, the first show that I did, I sort of was a big fish in my little, the Hollywood Playhouse when I was a kid doing those summer camps. Then I got to high school and I was very nervous, very shy, did not even go near the drama club the first, my freshman year. I just kind of sat on the sidelines, but then finally worked up the nerve to audition for the big school musical the next year. And it was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. And so your revival was really, I mean, you're kind of a big part of the soundtrack of my youth, because that came out in 99, which was the year I graduated. And we had just done it 2 years prior. So that was like the cast album.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had then I had tickets to come to New York, and then unfortunately it closed before we got to see you. But yeah, that was a big, there's a chapter in my book called You're a Gay Man, Charlie Brown, and it kind of covers that whole period. But so
That makes me
yes,
really happy to know that
yeah.
I have been in your ears before. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I guess I should say both those things.
No,
Um,
no, 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 no. It was a joy.
I'm so
Um,
glad.
And so when I graduated, I went to college for just a few minutes. I was dating my first boyfriend, who knew someone who got us a gig on a cruise ship working as social staff slash entertainment, which meant by day we would host bingo and horse racing by the pool. And by night we got to sing in the Mermaid Lounge. So and then we stayed there for about a month. I jumped ship and moved back home.
Why? That was not fun.
Not fun. Yeah, it was just not for me. And we were so young. I think had I done it a few years later, I would have been more appreciative
Right.
of the gig.
Yeah.
But I was we were both of us, we were very sheltered, and they kept, when you work those cruise ships, and this was kind of a schlocky cruise ship, if I may.
Right.
I won't give the
Right.
name, but they really, from the second you wake up, they've got you on a schedule, and we did not care for that. So we were kind of divas about it.
Right.
Um,
What
and then
kind of
there,
stuff were you singing?
well, back then, I mean, it was a lot of show tunes, obviously, and those, I mean, I think it was me and my boyfriend, and I remember only doing a medley from Sideshow, where he and I sang both leads. And so clearly, we were dating as well. And that was no secret. But then moved back home and, was trying to figure out what the hell to do. I didn't know. And then long story short, just picked up and moved to New York.
Calm her down. Sorry, my dog is screaming, and I just asked my husband to ask her to stop barking, and she has.
Oh,
She is
thank
she is acquiesced. Um, how did you get to New York?
Plain. Well, I have family here too. So I flew and stayed with my uncle for a while. I did a lot of couch surfing. I had a couple friends who were pounding the pavement, so I stayed with them. Again, a miserable time for me, because kind of a princess, and I'm not really, one to couch surf, but something in me knew that I had to make this work. I had to come to New York, and I had to make it work. And didn't
So
even know why, really. Like because I didn't. A lot of people assume that I came and started pounding the pavement with my friends and auditioning, but again, scared of my own shadow, had no confidence, and I just knew that I belonged here, and I had to come and kind of grow up. And I knew that while I did that, Broadway and theater and show business to some extent would be down the block, and it would be, within my reach, and that was good enough. And something in me said, you got to stick it out.
so what was the connector? Like, what was the breakthrough?
To doing it.
Yeah, to actually going from it's nearby and I'm gonna actually do it
Yeah.
somehow.
Well, I mean, YouTube was the connector, frankly, because I went many years not doing it. And I went many years, just kind of living and working in restaurants and trying to grow up. And I needed that, because I was 21, 22 when I moved here, and I was really like 12. I was the youngest 22-year-old.
So when you
There's
think about like your first community of friends, like definitely for me, working at a restaurant as a young person in New York. Like that was kind of my first group of friends.
Yeah.
The bartender ended up leaving and becoming like an assistant to a casting director for all my children, and suddenly he was getting us all in to read for, either under fives or got people extra work. Like those relationships from that restaurant were actually the most important for the beginning. Did you have that as well, kind of meeting people as you were?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because as you know, when you come to New York and you're in a restaurant, it's all carbon copies of you to some extent. It's all creative people who don't want to be in that job. You're in your 20s. It's such a communal experience. So yeah, I met friends that I still, unfortunately, I've kind of lost day-to-day touch with them, but they're always in my heart, and I feel like we'll always have a really unique bond.
So
So yeah, the
let's,
restaurants were big, and then I worked. I did a lot of reception work.
and were you good at that?
Fabulous. Yeah. Actually, the first receptionist job that I got was working at Richard Frankel Productions, now Frankel Green, I believe they're still called, who at the time were producing. They were producing Hairspray and Stomp. Those were their kind of big juggernauts. And we're just starting to do the Patti LuPone, Michael Cerveris revival of Sweeney Todd. So I was in heaven. I would go and I would make the coffee in the morning and then answer the phones. But you didn't know if when you answered the phone, it could be Patti LuPone, it could be Elaine Stritch. It was like this.
Yes.
I kind of thought that I had made it in show business to some
Well,
extent.
you did at
Yeah,
that
well,
time, right? I mean that is thrilling to be to breathe the same air as the thing you've loved for so long is pretty exciting.
yeah, and I joke about it, but self-deprecatingly, but I think that really did kind of that did shift my perspective a little bit, because that for the first time it wasn't down this block anymore. I was in the building, and even though I was still too scared to really do anything about it as creatively or as a performer, something in me was like, okay, this is attainable.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to talk about, I mean, I think back to like the Prop 8 video, different videos
Mm.
that are in my consciousness of sort of like I can't remember the day I discovered Randy Rainbow. Um, but I remember what I saw. And talk to me about what the inspiration was for these brilliant parodies, as it were, that talked about what was going on in politics in your unique, hilarious voice.
Well, it started with while I was working as a receptionist, I also started a blog back when everyone was having a blog. And I kind of made it Broadway bent and kind of would talk about my day and my dating life. And also it was a lot of kind of commentary on entertainment news. And eventually the Mel Gibson story happened, when Mel Gibson's those tapes were leaked of him having those rants to his ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever. And I kind of had built up a little bit of a following at the blog, and something clicked in me that I should maybe take some of this comedy that I was writing, this that I was kind of honing my voice as a comedian with these blog posts, and do something performative. So I just decided to do this skit where I walked around my apartment having romantic phone conversations with his anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic phone messages. And it went kind of viral-ish. For the time, it got like 100,000 views in a week. And back then that was a big friggin' deal.
Yeah.
So this kind of was set the wheels in motion for this shtick of mine. And I just kept doing it. I just followed the bouncing ball of whatever was going on, and it eventually became more political. So yeah, that's really how it started, and then eventually I started doing it for Broadway World, which is of course a well-known theater site. They hired me to do sort of my weekly take on theater news in my style, and I would make videos for them. And that was really when I started adding the song parody element, because I knew I had always been a singer and I wanted to show off a little bit, and so I started adding some music to those videos, and somehow they just combined. I combined the two and started doing the musical parody with the more mainstream news. And who knew people like that?
Hundreds of millions of people like it. Was Broadway World the first time in terms of monetizing this thing, like making this actually like I do this for a living? How did that happen?
I guess Broadway World was, although God bless Broadway World, I'm very grateful to them. They did not,
When I say monetize, maybe that's
I
not
mean,
the
we use
exact
the term
word.
loosely. Yeah, I was getting some form of monetary compensation. It was ridiculous to assume that I could quit my day job from it, and yet I did. Because it was for the first time I was hearing from people in the industry. Audra McDonald started DMing me, and producers and directors, and like this gave me the confidence and kind of kicked me to the next level within myself to say, I don't know why, but I just feel like I need to quit my job. And that is not, like me. I'm not really loosey-goosey like that. My mother has instilled a very kind of fear-based, and I'm grateful for it, a work ethic. So it was a strange thing for me to do, but I did it and it worked out.
How does that then turn into a full-time job? Is it
It's
through
called Donald
YouTube?
Trump.
It's
20s. I knew early on, somewhere in me, I guess, I was kind of always, while I was thinking that I was just doing this to showcase my talents as an entertainer, and I thought the end of this will be someone will pluck me and put me in a sitcom or put me on stage or blah, blah, blah. I knew that this gimmick would be helpful and would somehow guide me to where I needed to go, because if you just follow if you just kind of paint by the numbers as far as um the news, and if I knew if that was my gimmick, then there would always be headlines, there would always be topics to cover. And I just stuck with them. And sure enough, that really paid off. And in 2016, I don't have to tell you, there was an endless amount of entertainment, and that, material rather, I shouldn't say entertainment. Hopefully I turned it into entertainment, but it really took everything to the next level.
And in terms of all of the, for this will be on YouTube as well. But for podcast listeners at home, um, there's a green painted wall behind Randy. So we know that's sort of where the green screen magic happens. How was it that you were, there's this thing that has to come together of talent and then a skill set that is exactly right for the medium you're working in. Your ability to know how to manipulate technology to make the content you want to make. First of all, were you always just a kid who kind of was playing around in the world of editing?
Yes, to some extent. I went to look back. I was like, there was a time when I would lock myself in a room. We had a camcorder, and I would make stop motion animation videos with my, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures.
Right.
So to some extent, I never I never thought that was really an interest, but yes. And then there was a time when I would kind of parody MTV music videos, and do kind of stop by stop, uh, just, kind of replicas of those with me in wigs. So I've been doing some form of this since I'm a kid. Um, but I never really had, uh, well, I guess, yeah, I never thought that I had a gift or an interest or a talent for the technical part of it, because it doesn't feel like it's of interest to me. Again, it's a means to an end. So everything I do now, all of the editing is done by me, and I've never taken a class or learned how to do anything. It's kind of just all by ear and
Right.
the vision that
Right.
I have in my head.
Okay, so that's the technical part. And then there are the lyrics that you write as you parody. You know, Randy takes well known musical theater songs and replaces the lyrics with the most hilarious, completely spot on, whatever the topic is. So is that have you been the Lin-Manuel Miranda of this forever? And that all came together as well?
Um, Again, a means to an end. I thought I was a singer and an actor, and that was it. And I did not, have, as I said, the confidence to go allow someone to try to put me in a project. I didn't trust that anyone would know what to do with me. So the editing, the writing, all of that came because I knew I had to create content. I had to create something for to perform, and then I had to package it myself. um so didn't really grow up as a thinking that I would be a writer in any way, but a massive musical theater fan since I'm a kid. So Sondheim was a massive influence in my life. Talk about in the book how I later went on to meet him. That's a whole chapter. And he became someone in my life, actually. But yeah, just a means to an end. I don't know what I'm doing, Alana. I'm winging it.
Well, this Wing and a Prayer is going really well, Randy Rainbow, because you are reaching so many people. And, there's this idea of going viral. Everyone tries to go viral and tries to figure out like what's the algorithm and what's the thing. And it seems to me that it works only organically. Like it has to come
Yeah.
from truth, right?
Oh
Like,
my God, that's so important. Yeah, because I did go through a time, of course, and I'm so thrilled that I am the age I am and that I came up in the time of social media when it wasn't what it is today. God bless these TikTok stars. I do not have that in me. That is not of interest to me. I'm not good at that kind of content creation. I don't, because it's so, as you said, it's so technical. It's so about the algorithm. And and there was a time where I was floundering a little bit and didn't know what is my act? Should I be more political? Should I stick with the theater stuff? Should I do less music, more music? And finally one day I just said, screw it. Let me just do what feels right. Let me do what I just love. And when I just started having a great time, which is what I'm still doing to this day, just playing dress up, putting on wigs and costumes and singing the songs that I want to sing that no one, from shows that no one would cast me in any mainstream sense. That's when people started gravitating toward me. So it's not about the politics. I'm not a pundit of any kind. I hope I'm politically aware and active, but that's not the secret sauce to what I'm doing. That's not what gets eyeballs on me. I truly believe it's that people are watching someone just have a great time and live out their childhood dreams. As far as musical theater, it just so happens the topics are kind of, weightier, sometimes depressing topics from the news.
okay, so let's talk about Broadway. It just seems to me Randy Rainbow on Broadway is such an obvious choice for the world now. So how do we make that happen? Is that still something that would make you happy?
Yeah, how do we make that happen?
Yeah, because I know you're
Um,
touring.
I'm touring. I'm just about to embark on my new tour, my Randy Rainbow for President tour. And it's a new show. That's why I'm like exhausted right now. Forgive me if I'm a little low energy, but I'm getting ready to, I've got 3 weeks till I launch this thing, and it's a new band and it's new script and it's a whole new production. So we kick it off mid-October. When will this is this does this work with our
Probably
air date?
it'll absolutely correspond as it turns
Okay,
out.
great.
Yeah.
Great. So go to randyrainbow.com for tickets. But the hope and dream and prayer that we're working on now, I'm not at liberty to discuss too much, and there's also not too much to discuss at this time, is that this will land for a limited engagement on Broadway in
Okay, great.
2024.
That seems perfect to me, and anything I can do to help make that happen.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yes, starts today. So there are a lot of you out there, and I think we just write into the Broadway Times that that's a must happen.
Yes, write a
And
letter to your Broadway
yeah,
senator.
to your Broadway senator and call and don't stop calling. Let them know what you demand. And
So,
I don't know, I don't even know why it has to be a limited run, but whatever, that's up
well,
to
we're gonna,
you.
we're gonna start small.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
very Jewish. I'm like, let's hang on.
Let's not
Wait,
get ahead of
wait.
ourselves.
Let's
I
not get ahead of
understand.
ourselves. Yes.
Listen, Andy, Randy, Reagan Um, that's also a great
Not
name.
doesn't have the same
It
flair.
does not
I
have.
feel.
I don't know what you would have, what the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy would have been if that were the name. Rainbow is so much better. I cannot even tell you, it is so heady for me to be talking to you today,
Gosh.
um, because the hours and hours of enjoyment and also the conversation it leads to when you find someone else who's a Randy Rainbow lover.
Yeah.
The joy of kind of going, have you seen that one? Have you? It's like, it was like the way kids used to, trade Pokemon cards. Now
That
it's
is so
trading
great.
Randy
That makes
Rainbow
that's
videos.
what a great compliment that is. And I did, it's not, you mentioned the pandemic and that sort of being the next step after Trump. When that kind of expanded my audience. But you have no way of knowing because it's so isolating what I do and what anyone who creates content for social media or the internet. I'm all alone in a room with this friggin' green wall, and you don't know what kind of impact it's having on people other than you see numbers, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, on in your metrics. But it's not until I started touring that I was able to be in the same room with people and feel and see firsthand that lovely connection that you're talking about. And when you come to one of my shows, it is a communal experience, and people are excited to meet up. And it's the best compliment you can pay me.
Well, I don't think, we're on some other side of something, and it's really hard to tell where we are. But I remember talking to some healthcare workers who were talking about, frontline people talking about how you're, Mr. Biden, da, 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 that like not people just in the theater landscape, but people who were finding it because they were on the front lines of the thing that you were talking about or singing about. And so I can only imagine kind of how incredibly rewarding it must be to get to do what you love to do and to have figured out this thing that you are brilliant at, and for it to bring so much joy to so many people, but also like comfort to so many people. It's just Randy, you're really remarkable, not
Oh,
just for
thank
shedding
you.
light on things and having people that we generally think of as on the other side of political views. They love it too, right? They're learning about themselves. You are giving them an opportunity to see something without yelling at them, right? Without sort of shaming them, but just sort of going, hey, why don't you think of it from this perspective and see if it lands? And I think that's extraordinary, like truly extraordinary.
Thank you so much. That really means the world to me. Yeah. Art, musical theater in particular, that did all of those things for me. It taught me, it gave me new perspective, particularly as a kid and still to this day. And above all, gave me comfort in times when I needed it most. So really all I'm doing is using those tools to hopefully provide a little levity and comfort to people when they need it most. And yeah, I'm thrilled to have found this path in life, because I think that the performance side of it, just looking for views, looking to showcase whatever talent one may have, that kind of loses its charm after a while. And you do, I think with any profession, as Oprah, I was just watching her say something. I'm just going to rip off Oprah now for the last part of this interview. But she talks, of course, about, reaching a point where you take the thing that you love to do, your career, and you say, how can I use this to be of service? And to reach that place is a great gift. And I hope to continue finding ways to be of service while still having a great time and wearing wigs and
And pink
cheap costumes
glasses.
and pink
Exactly.
glasses.
Um, before I let you go, is there a little known fact about you that you can share?
A little known fact, well, after you read my book, there will be none because this is in there too. But we were talking about restaurants at the beginning of this interview, and that leads me to my first restaurant job when I moved to New York, which was at Hooters. I was a Hooters host. I was a Hooters girl. And people don't, although among my base, that's becoming sort of more widely known, but that's one that I like to share.
I
Didn't wear
can,
the orange shorts or the white tank top. They
you
did
did
not
not.
they
Oh,
would not allow me. I tried.
that is a shame. That is a shame. All right. So let's just make sure people know how to find everything you do. So
Yeah.
is it one-stop shopping at your website or is the YouTube channel? Tell us.
Yeah, go to randyrainbow.com. You'll find everything you've ever desired. But that's where you can get tickets. You can find all my socials and etc.
And also you have to pick up Playing with Myself, Randy's book. It's hilarious and also like deeply moving.
Okay.
And congrats on all of it. And thank you for being on the podcast. You are amazing. And I am so lucky I got to be with you today. Thank you,
Thanks,
Randy.
Alana. Pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Bye.
I appreciate it.